Is this an April Fool's joke? That's hilarious. All right. Right. Is this an April Fool's joke? That's hilarious. Okay, that's going to cause some feedback there. All right, so sorry about that. Just have to test sound as always. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. And actually, the funny thing about April Fools in my family is that the story goes that my dad, around April Fools, he decided to tell my mother that he was going to go into business for himself. My dad is a cabinet maker by trade. That's how he grew up, or that's what he ended up always doing. So one of the things he did is he told my mom, and my mom was like, "You're a fool." So every April Fools, he actually reminds her that you told me what I was a fool and I'm still in business. So in the family, like we actually celebrate April Fools. And actually, I fucked up because I didn't even call him today. So I'm gonna call him probably after the stream here. Hey guys, welcome to Obfuscate. This is a stream where I talk to you guys. I also hold myself, or I put myself to work for myself. Today, I'm kind of going against that a little bit. I wanted to show you a script that I actually work with on a daily basis, or I've worked with, and this is something that we use at my day job on a daily basis. I do want to thank Richard Dixon for the money that you sent me via Cash App. Like, really and truly appreciate it, guys. Anything that you guys send me, I do appreciate. I do have a couple things planned. I don't need it, but I'm not going to leave money on the table, and you shouldn't either in terms of anything that you do. If you have the opportunity to make any type of extra money, go ahead and be a capitalist. Do what you need to do to make sure that you have some type of money, or you get paid for your skills. But for you guys to even give me anything, like, I really do appreciate that, because to be truthful, like, you don't need to. And there's other places that offer a quote unquote better and more higher end bit of education and information, but you guys are here, so I really appreciate that, and I'll try to continue to give you guys something. Okay. Oh, he's like, I thought you were joking. I figured you would be using Bash. Okay. So, Richard, we did talk a little bit about this last time. It was a question from another person before the stream started, asking, like, what's the best language? Yeah, I don't worry so much about languages. I worry about logic. If you worry about languages, in some cases, you might actually find yourself without an actual job. Keep it techie, bro. Appreciate you, man. Like, I know you shared a video of mine a while back. You're inspirational. You do great work. And bro, keep doing it, bro. Like, you're amazing. You're like where's my camera at? Right here. You're freaking amazing, bro. Keep it up. Yeah, so Richard Dixon, as I said, it's one of those things where you should learn logic, and logic is more important per se than logic is way more important than the language you use to actually represent that logic, to execute that logic. So in my case, what if you have 500-600 Windows computers and you have to do something? It's just like, well, maybe if we install Python in every single one of them and get all these libraries installed, then we can run this script because I know that language. No, that's just not how it works, quote unquote, in the real world, right? Like, not going against you, not going up against you or anything like that, Richard. But it's like, it doesn't work like that. So what happens is that you're forced to be you're forced to be versatile. You're forced to have to say, okay, if I'm too pretty for ugly work, like I said in the past stream, if I'm too pretty for ugly work, then what do I do to ensure that I stay pretty? And a part of it is scripting. So scripting in a language that you may or may not like. So I have a script here. We have it's just something that was there beforehand, and this script literally was an actual list of things to do. This script was written out, say, hey, you need to do this. Hopefully nothing's in my beard. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, so on and so forth, right? And then after that, I was just like, I looked at it and I was like, bro, this is BS. I'm not doing this every single time. I'd rather run a script and then I could do this on 15 computers. You can use different things. Richard Dixon, as you said, that was nothing, bro, especially for all the gems you drop in. Hey, listen, man, I hope I drop more gems and I hope they're not covered in shit. So, you might have to wash some of them off. Keep it techie. Salute, Young Grizzly. That's what I'm here. What someone talking about. My more brothers showing tech. Hey, man, like I've been in it for a couple years. I ran a computer consulting company, as you know, and it's just like, yeah, there's not enough of us in there. And like when I say there's not enough of us, if I see one other, still not enough. I need to see 10 others. So totally agree with you on that. Appreciate you, bro. I love PowerShell scripting. Very powerful. Yeah, keep it techie. I don't know. I might have to kick you out the chat for that, bro. PowerShell scripting, very powerful, bro. I, I'm gonna need you to pick up your code at the door and leave. We Linux over here, okay? We only do this because we get paid. Don't try me like that. But PowerShell scripting, yes, it is fairly powerful. You can do quite a bit with it. I believe the command structure myself when writing scripts for it, it's a little bit it's a little bit confusing. It's a little bit obfuscated. If you guys look up the word obfuscate, the actual word that it's used mainly in program is obfuscation, or the version of the word is obfuscation. And that is just sometimes you obfuscate your code, or sometimes just code is obfuscated and it's more complex than it really has to be. So yeah, it's sometimes it's more obfuscated than it has to be, or more confusing. But I forgot where it was, but essentially in terms of the PowerShell, in terms of the command structure and what you use on a regular basis, PowerShell is not something that I totally like in comparison to Linux. I'm a Linux guy. Those commands are a little bit more simple, but that whole command line, that whole environment is a little bit more geared towards, what's it called? It's geared towards making things happen, things like just capitalization in some of the commands and things like that are just different. But that operating system is geared to make most, if not all things happen in the command line, or happen from a command line, or from make things to where it's easy so that you can actually do a lot of things from the command line, or it can actually, anything that you do in the GUI, you should be able to set in the command line, which is sometimes annoying with newer programs that are totally GUI based. And then you try to do things in the command line and it's extremely hard to do, especially even in Linux. And that's kind of what I see with Windows. And Windows, you can tell even with PowerShell, PowerShell is not the first thing that they do things in. It's a bit of an afterthought to actually do things like set ACLs on registry entries or anything else like that. And there's so many different ways to actually do things in a registry entry. In fact, we'll be going over some of the stuff here in this script that was made, and this is probably the newest version of it. We have what they call a BYOD script, which means you bring your own device. We run this script on your computer. We have something that we roll ourselves. I use 7-zip to roll it. So in that 7-zip file, there will be like 2 files currently. So one file is a bat script. So that's, your CMD prompt stuff. And in that bat script, it runs the whole list or laundry list of commands and things like that. Pretty much all those same things are here. I'll try to go through most of this. I actually saved this because I was working on this earlier on today, and I was like, you know what, this would be good to stream about, and so I kind of stopped working on it. Don't tell my boss. I kind of stopped working on it throughout the day, but I want to try and finish it up tonight. So we'll be spending an hour with you guys. We'll end the stream at 10:30, and you'll see the process of me like testing this a little bit at a time, line by line. And of course, answering some of your questions and interacting with you guys. So as I've said before in the previous stream, sometimes I will ignore chat and then focus on what I'm doing to try and get through something. In this case, I know that we have I know that most of this stuff works, and I know it definitely works if you use CMD, but it doesn't work properly if you use PS1, if you use a PS1 file or save it in the PS1 file, which is just the file, like a bat script runs in the command line, a PS1 file will run in the PowerShell command line. Now, what I have here is first, everything is rolled in that 7-zip file. It's a self-extracting executable. What's nice about 7-zip, I can put a password on it. So essentially, you can actually have a nice file. Our file is about 600 megs with all the applications that we have in there. And we have this self-contained executable. They download it. They need a password to get it. And then, of course, they need a password to extract anything. So we're not just distributing software out there that may require a license or something like that. And we can control a little bit about that before the person gets it. So if anything, when we're done, we always just clean up and erase everything because it takes up a little bit of space on the computer. And also, we don't want those files to just be out there so they can just do whatever the hell they want. The computers are locked down themselves. My manager really dove deep into Microsoft Office 365, Intune, and Office 365 Autopilot. And maybe I can do a stream with him where we talk about that in terms of what he actually did. So it could be something that we can, that might be something I want to do in the future. But I'll get to him and talk to him a little bit more about that and see if he's up for it. But a part of that whole thing in terms of setting up these computers in an automated fashion is sometimes we have to script certain things. Some computers are not are not controlled totally by the organization. Some computers other users bring in, and then we have to set up with the software. One of the things that we do is have this script, this BYOD script. It has the apps folder. In the app folder has all the different apps, and then we run through and we even do GPO policies. So one thing is LGPO.exe, and then you can actually run LGPO, and then you can say, hey, listen, this is the folder where all the GPO policies, the local GPO policies. So if you're using something like domain controllers and things like that in your organization, and you have your GPOs and you use GPEdit to edit those GPOs meaning group policy objects. So if you want to edit any of those group policy objects, you have to use GPEdit, and then it gets pushed down to the computers. But the thing is, the computers themselves, whether they're on a domain or not, actually have a local GPO or local GPO settings. They have machine-based and user-based GPOs, and in those GPOs, in fact, let's see here, GPO edit. Hold on. Edit group policy. I guess this is good to go through, and we'll go through we'll go through this stuff line by line or section by section for this script, and then I'll get into trying to fix the problem that I'm having with it. So for the computer itself, it actually has a local GPO. So one of the things that I have to do in my job and my job title is web development tier 3 support. One of the things I try to do is make things easier for my colleagues. So local group policy editor, if you go to your start menu and you actually type in GPO, you'll see the group policy editor. So I'll be like type in GPO. So you'll see edit group policy. So that's where you can actually go to actually get to this menu here, or this little this program here. I'll call it that. And with your local group policy, you can do things like software settings, Windows settings, administrative settings. You could do that for the computer itself, which affects all users, or you can do it for the user itself, which only affects that user. Some are native only or are just for a user, and some GPO policies are just for the machine itself. But it's like things like 15 minutes to time out, 15 minutes to ensure that the computer screen itself locks, for security reasons, if you have some type of compliance mandate, or you just want to keep things a little bit more secure. So, things like LGPO actually go through. So like I do a pre-sys prep LGPO. With LGPO, what you can do is set up your GPO, then you can export that GPO to a folder, and then use that call that LGPO program again. Use the /G flag. I forgot exactly what that means, but with the /G flag, then I can go ahead and uh, call the folder where I actually have my GPO settings. And that GPO settings folder has a couple files in it. One of the files being like an Excel file, and a couple other group policy object files that are in there. And what it'll do is it'll go through that, and then it'll copy that over into your local GPO. And then, after you're done with everything running in your script, after you're done, you can actually go to your local GPO settings, and you'll see all those changes have been made for you. So that's really nice when you have somebody that's bringing a computer that's outside of your control, in a sense, in terms of that they bought it and the organization did not provide it for them, but then you want to still enact some type of security or level of security or compliance with that. So that's a really nice thing to do. All right, so RoboCopy. RoboCopy stands for robust copy. There's CP or copy. I think it's the copy command. I'm getting CP confused with Linux. But there's the copy command, then there's Xcopy, then there's RoboCopy. So RoboCopy allows you to do a couple more things, and they built a little bit more on that package itself. So with RoboCopy, you can actually copy. You can do a little bit more in terms of controlling what you copy. Also, what's really nice, it's almost like rsync. I think Richard Dixon, we went over that last stream, where rsync is a little bit more, it's like recursive sync is what rsync stands for. But what's nice about rsync is it'll actually look at the difference between two files and copy the newer one if you want it to, or if you want it to override it. And you can set it to do things like that. Lower level commands or lower end commands such as CP in Linux, or copy, the entire word, in Windows, don't look at those things, and they'll just do a blind copy, and it doesn't matter. Those things are a lot faster, but they're not always the safest thing, and you could overwrite important data. And you can make really nice scripts if you use something like a RoboCopy. So for this one, I just do a move. The reason why I do a move is because I don't want to do a copy. That's a way of getting that apps folder so it doesn't take up more space and moving it to the section that I want. Then after that, we actually do the attrib command. So we actually go in there, change the attribute of that folder, and hide it, so that nobody can just go onto the C drive and see that the apps folder is there. It's for apps. It has apps that we need as techs if we ever have to log into that system. And from there, we can, we have like Angry IP Scanner in there. We have other tools and other installers and installer packages that are a little bit, in some cases, custom, such as like even our LogMeIn installer and things like that. And then we even have a custom file called changename.vbs. And in that was done before my time, and that was done by my manager. And what it does, it actually takes the name, the serial number of the computer, and changes the name of that computer to the serial number that's on that computer, which is a really nice thing, because then we can identify, in terms of our inventory management, we can identify what computer is what, and then keep better track of it, because now the computer itself is the proper name, or is a name that we know, and you have to restart for that to actually take effect. So let's go back up to the top, because I'm skipping around here. So RoboCopy again, and this is just all the desktop links that we actually already have. Those were pre-generated or done beforehand and put in a folder, and then we have links to certain files. You also see that we do here too a little bit later on. So here, see apps. So Adobe Reader. So this is using Adobe. This is using Adobe Reader DC, which is the offline installer. With some of these apps, you can actually get offline installers. The online installer, the only difference is it's a downloader. So you download the downloader, then the downloader downloads the actual the actual file, or sometimes operating system, and that or file or operating system, or even installer in this case. And then that is what goes ahead and then actually does all the installs. Now, with some of these offline installers, you can actually do things like RS. I believe RS means just like run and then silent, and then SPB. Those are actual flags for Adobe Reader DC. So let's actually look this up a little bit. I'll do this on another screen to make sure that I don't put the wrong stuff on here and hurt the eyes of you all. Oh, that's a really cool picture. As always, ArtStation has really cool stuff, and I always like the 3D art that they actually put up there. So that's definitely something you guys want to get into. Command line. We even make registry changes to Adobe too in this script, which is actually done via Adobe Enhanced Disabled, and that's just something that we need because of software that we use requires us to turn that off. All right, so what I did is I searched for, let's go back here to DuckDuckGo, Adobe Reader DC command line. So with this, it'll actually tell me the MSI, the executable that we actually download, the offline installer. It actually allows us to do things like run it without actually having any type of prompts. So we just hit okay, okay, okay. Now think about the fact that think about if the scenario, if you have to do this for 100 computers or the X amount of computers. Well, you can have one person that does all the imaging, you can have one person that does all this, and then maybe it's like back in the day it would be like, okay, you have to deal with this and you have to deal with it yourself, or you can do imaging, which is nice. But in some cases we can't do imaging because it's like only one computer, and it's like, well, it's not that we can't, but some things require us, or some problems we have with imaging is that it doesn't work. We don't have an image for every single computer that comes out. So we have a script that makes all the changes that we need that usually would be in an image. Now, for any computer that we have, that the organization provides, we have images for. So we only say, like, we buy them in bulk, maybe 10, 20, 50. In some organizations, they'll buy hundreds or 1,000 at a time. This was a big deal in IT. If you're in IT and you're trying to buy a lot of computers, when COVID hit, you were screwed. One, because of supply chain issues and delivery, supply chain issues with delivery. Two, because other larger organizations needed had to have field people work, so they had to buy a lot of computers. So governments, schools, and other things got first dibs with CDW, and then three, then you had everybody doing a major rush to be everything from home, work from home, so on and so forth. So all those places where you had to go to work and do whatever you needed to, well, they needed laptops now because they don't have they can't use a powerful desktop at their job because they can't be in the office legally, right? So this was a big issue. But my manager skillfully, he already not saw this in a sense, but they made the change a while ago to just do all laptops with docking stations because laptops are so powerful. And then they allowed the person to actually go from work and home and things like that. So when COVID hit, it was just like, boom, pack your stuff up and get the hell out of here. You can take your entire setup home if you wanted to. And that made it really an easy transition. Anyways, going back to MSI and CMD command line examples, here I can search for. So here I see that the SPB. So first we'll search for that. I just saw it a moment ago, but all right. Silent mode with minimum UI, show the progress bar only. That's nice. So when it actually pops up and does the installation, what it does, it actually just shows the progress bar, and then you don't have to like click next, 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 next. You don't have to do any of that. It just does it all for you. And then reboot suppress. Some setup.exe will not initiate reboot even if it is required. That's another nice thing too. Yeah, even even Best Buy, and I see you made the correction later, but even Best Buy running out of stuff as well, that was a big deal. and a lot of vendors, they were running out, not just because people locally were buying stuff, but all the government institutions, and then like FEMA or WHO or anybody else that was that needed desktops and computers, or even schools to give it to the kids. Anybody that needed that, they were just like at the store buying any and everything, anything they can get their hands on, even if it was an i5, an i3 of the same computer, all that stuff. Like they needed to actually, they had to allocate some of that stuff and hold off in terms of giving it to people, because some of these other organizations had kind of like a first right of refusal in data center talk. Like, if you bought this cabinet, you had the first right of refusal on the next cabinet over, and you didn't always have to pay for that. But when somebody moved in, the salesman would call you, hey, do you want to buy that cabinet next to you? We're about to sell it. And if you said no, then they go ahead and sell it. But if you said yes, you want to maybe buy it or put a hold on it or something like that, you can do so. So first right of refusal in a sense, and they had dibs, they had priority, is another better way of saying that. But yeah, so silent mode with minimum UI and suppress reboot. Now this is a big thing, because you see a lot of programs where they want to reboot and it's annoying and all this stuff. You have to do all these other things. Now with this script, I have to go back through it. I originally made this script probably about a year and a half ago, and I'm trying to convert everything over to a PS1. I still use a bat script, and what I do is chain loading with this. So I have a bat script that runs the PS1 script. The reason why we do that is because of this error here. This file cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled on the system. For more information, see this article. We don't want to have script execution enabled, and that's just a whole nother step in command that we would have to remember to run a script. We wanted to make it as easy for the lower level text to just double click on it and do whatever they can. Going back to the scenario, if you had 100 computers and you're working on this, even if it's just by yourself, but by scripting it, I can actually have all these computers running all at the same time and double click, double click, double click, double click, double click. Have this all on a shared repository or something like that, or a shared drive. Download everything to the local computer if I ever needed to, or can run it and execute it from that shared drive. It's actually the way this script works. You actually have to have it locally on the computer, but you can write the script differently if you needed to where it pulls from that data storage and then puts it on that computer. So that's one thing that you can actually do. But this is for, hey, listen, it downloads a package, extracts that package, and then goes from there. But if you had those 100 computers, then you don't have to go to each and every single one of them and do all these different things to it. You can just double click it, and then you can kind of turn into a one-man wrecking crew, or a one-man, formatter, reinstaller, or whatever. And it makes you a little bit more efficient as a person. And then you can multiply and scale that. It just makes scaling a lot better. I always look to try and make things better for my colleagues, also making things better for myself, because I'm too pretty for ugly work. And because of that, now I'm doing things to make things a little bit easier for them, so that it makes their job easier. And then also there's less work for all of us, or less pressure for work for all of us. Now we have this nice foundation that we can actually go ahead and we have this nice foundation that we can go ahead. Anything happens, if we have like 40, 50, 100 new hires all at once, we can actually get all those things done in a weekend. And we can do those a myriad of ways, even using things like Clonezilla. I know, Keep It Techie, if you're still there, Clonezilla is a big deal, especially in the Linux community. All right. And Mr. Heat said, "Oh, PowerShell, the beautiful nightmare." That was the first comment here on the stream, so I wanted to acknowledge that. And it definitely is a beautiful nightmare. We'll get into that here in a moment. But you can see some of these files, some of these installers will actually have triggers that you can actually use. So even some of the other programs that we run will have some of these nicer triggers, such as logmein.msi. It actually has a quiet feature to where it runs and you don't really see anything. You just execute it and it does next, 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 next for you, and then just stop. And then in the background, everything's just completed. The reason why that's very nice, and you can actually use this with Intune, you can actually have it run. Then it adds the computer to whatever inventory or list that you want. And then by doing something like that, with LogMeIn, it will put it in the right place if you have like a specific MSI or installer for a certain branch or a certain department or a certain office or certain customer, or something like that. And it'll put it in its proper place, the installer for that customer. That's a really nice thing to actually have. So you have the /quiet. Now, let's go to this make link. So all this does, it just makes a link. And now we have to actually research, and we'll get to this in a little bit. I'll try to speed through this a little bit faster, guys. But with the make link, that just actually creates an actual link. So it takes the program, wherever it, no, actually, it makes the link itself. So whatever the link is going to be, like the LNK file, which is that, an actual shortcut, and then its source to where it's pointing to. So in this case, Office is installed, Adobe Reader and Office is installed, right? So we've done the Office 365 setup. We have the actual installer that's on the computer. In some cases, I think what we use is the downloader, so it gets the latest version. So we use the downloader that downloads everything, does the installation for us. For the, I think it does a 32-bit installer, and we need the 32-bit installer because it's a requirement for another program that we use called Encompass. So from here, after that, it creates all the links, and that'll put all those links on your desktop. Then we actually change the computer name. And the reason why we need to change the computer name before we run LogMeIn, again, when you're doing these things, sometimes you have to do these things in order. So we change the computer name so that it shows up properly in LogMeIn, especially on restart. Then we use Ninite. Ninite's a very good resource. Hopefully it's not a bad picture. All right, cool. Ninite.com. And with Ninite, we can pick from a whole list of programs that they actually have: Chrome, LibreOffice, QPDF, and things like that. So we download an installer and then put that installer in there. It's a download. We download the downloader again, and then it gets the latest versions for us. So that's one less thing that we have to actually go out there for and get the latest version of Chrome or anything else. Excuse me, guys. All right, and then we go, we have something for Encompass 360, and Encompass, we actually have to install, we have a prerequisite that we have to install. This is a downloader, and then it downloads whatever it needs to and installs that, and then we have to download the actual, then we have to install the actual smart client for this software. Once all that's done, then we can start getting into the registry edits. As you can see, the comment character for this language is a hash symbol #. So I have all these lines commented out, and we'll get to actually writing some stuff, or correcting some stuff, I should say, because everything's pretty much already written. So regedit32.exe. What's nice about registry regedit is that you can actually have a .reg file, invoke regedit, point it to the reg file, and it'll copy all those registry entries into your local registry. So we do this for Adobe because we want to disable the enhanced mode. Again, a program that we use, Encompass, requires that. Next, Microsoft.win32.registry. So this is the beautiful nightmare that is PowerShell. This is the beautiful nightmare that is Windows scripting and command line, is that there's so many different ways of doing this. If we wanted to do this on, like, say, Windows 10 or something like that, sooner or later, the DOS prompt or the command line or the CMDLit will possibly go away. So we want to prepare for that by using something a little bit newer and a little bit more robust, and using one, instead of having like two different scripts and calling one script to do something and then calling another script, like calling a bat script to do another thing, and then going back and saying, okay, now we're going to go run it back in PowerShell, and now we're going to run. We want to try and write all these things in one language as best as possible, and then that makes sense too, because most systems, if not all systems in our organization, actually all systems really, have our Windows 10. There's no Windows 7 systems. If there are, they are special, and we don't really support them actually, because Microsoft doesn't support them. So we made it a point, or my manager made it a point to get all that stuff out of here. So let's actually increase this. All right, so Microsoft Win32, this is something that we had to look up. So set value. First, you give it the actual key that you're trying to set, right? Like a folder or something like that. In this case, H key, current user, software, and then the one that we want to actually set or create is Encompass, and then we don't put any values here because there are no sub keys that we're trying to set. We're actually trying to make a folder in that case, which is the actual folder in the registry entry. Folders and registry entries are pretty much just almost the same as files. They don't really contain anything per se into them. They are just like, okay, a way of organizing things. Maddox 12, man. Hello, brother. Welcome to the stream, man. Appreciate you as always, man, and supporting me. And another great member of the Black Brain Trust showing up and showing out, man. Appreciate that. So we have here set value. So we want to actually set a value in our registry, and we're using this type of syntax or a way of doing it that is available only in PowerShell, because this whole syntax and everything, if you run it in command line or CMD, it will not work properly at all. It just won't. It's just like, hey, this is not a recognized command, so on and so forth. The other way you would do it in CMD is that you would actually create a registry file or .reg file by exporting. Oops, just messed something up. By exporting a registry entry or folder, and then you would make this and maybe even edit that file, and then just do reg edit 32. I can probably keep doing that, and I may even go back to that. We'll see. But I want to try and do everything in PowerShell. Bit of a challenge, and then also making sure that we quote unquote future-proof the script. Next, this is something new that I learned. So if you wanted to actually set any permissions, you're going to need something called set ACL. And if you're doing CMD or anything like that. Hold on, guys. Let me turn my heater down. There's a cold one today. Maybe my studio lights. Hold on. Sadly, I have a coworker that calls me like super late. It's just like this. I'm not answering that. Sadly, just they don't understand that. Hopefully, you guys don't hear that. Hopefully, you can still hear me. Hopefully, you guys don't hear that. Hopefully, you can still hear me. Oh, you guys did hear that. Here's what it is. Sorry about that. All right, let's turn this heater down a little bit. All right, so back to it. Turn off the sound of the computer. Good. All right, so back to it. This is how we set permissions. We can. This is how we set permissions. Yeah, you guys heard that. I apologize. So sorry. Yeah. So this is how we set permissions in PowerShell, so that it actually affects our registry. And for us to do this outside of PowerShell in CMD or DOS prompt, we actually have to use setACL.exe. SetACL.exe allows us to go ahead and make all these settings changes. Aquatechy, appreciate you joining, brother. Appreciate it. So the set ACL allows us to make permissions changes to the actual registry entry itself. But for us to do that, we have to define a couple variables and a couple a couple objects, and then they all come together into this new object: system security access control that registry access role, and that's a function. And then it's almost written like JavaScript, and that's a function that takes all these previously defined variables. And then we'll just go through these first. So ID ref. So what we want to do is give everyone permissions to this registry, right? That's just to everyone permissions. If you go to reg edit, oh, screen went black there for a second. But if I go to reg edit and I right click and choose permissions, you'll see that we have the everyone permissions or we should. Oh, well, not on my computer because I don't run the script on my side all the time. But we have these different permissions here. Actually, Ellie Mae permissions. Okay, we still don't have it here. But what I would have to do is go through and actually add the everyone permission or add everyone user or group to this permission set to actually invoke this permission, right? Like, or to set the permissions on this actual registry entry. So after that, we give it full control, and then we actually start working with inheritance flags. So container inheritance, container inherit. So this thing would have to, or this the container or the folder would apply all the same permissions to subsequent registries or sub-registry entries or the items within that registry entries folder in the hierarchy. Then propagation flag, do we propagate all of those to the sub-entries? In this case, it's set to none. Access control type, we want to allow. There's a couple commands that we had to put together or that we had to figure out to actually get this information. For instance, let's run this one real quick. This is a part of what we have to do. We have to break down these things. First, one of the things that we have to do is actually look for how to do some of these things. And then once we look how to do it, then we can try and script it. So essentially with scripting, one of the things that we have to do is just replicate our steps. And then we have to make sure those steps work the same the same way every single time. So in this case, I'm going to paste this command, and that, because it does not exist. Wait, okay, I know one of them exists. I think, yeah, this one does. Get. Do Control V. All right, so this gives me the information that I need here, or that it's going to need to actually look at. There's something that actually inspects this a little bit more and shows us a different output here, but you can see that we have the access, who the owner is, and who the access is. Now, what we do is when we're assigning this to a variable like this, it gets that information, puts it a part of that object, and then we can run a sub command or a subroutine or sub function on that object, because this looks like it's object-oriented programming. But so since it's object-oriented programming, now we can do things like dot set access rule, and then that set access rule, just like in JavaScript, is a function that we can run on the original variable or the original object to modify or manipulate the data of that object so that we can possibly change that object itself completely, or change the output and assign that new variable. So in this case, and then again, this is logic, like once you start learning things like object-oriented programming and the benefits of it versus, or the differences really between that and procedural programming, then you start to see, okay, hey, listen, these things are pretty easy to break down. I've seen this before. So we have ACL, and what I do is that ACL variable, I reuse it over and over and over again. I set it to a new get value, and then I set access rule, and then use this rule variable here that I call again, and apply set access rule, and then I execute ACL, and then I pipe that into set ACL path, right? Sulu keep attacking. All right, cool. Just reading the chat there. So set ACL path, and then it gives us the path of where we want to actually set that ACL on, and then that's this object here. I'm not gonna lie, I got this from an article. It works. It does what we need it to. And last thing before I actually start looking at this and explain the problem, I probably extend this one. I probably have to extend. I can't do an hour. I talk too damn much, but this thing here, we had to actually do this recently, and we have all these computers in LogMeIn that we actually administer, that we actually have control over and do things with, and one of the things that we actually had to do, we had a major problem where it was like a major error or a major issue. So instead of having to do all these things on each single and every single computer manually, which we had to do for a little bit, once we worked on this script, it was like DEFCON 5. We focused on it. Myself and my colleague, we were researching, doing screen shares, and all types of other stuff. Within a couple hours, we were able to get this all set up by finding an article that had this information in it. And then we applied that on a test system. Once everything looked good the way we wanted it, then we actually rolled it out. There's like usually one-to-many services or deployment services in some of the more robust remote softwares or remote control softwares that you have. Maybe it's a BoomGar, maybe it's LogMe in our case, maybe it's TeamViewer or something like that. And they allow you to remotely execute code. So with remote execution, now we can actually distribute all this code or these commands, aka fixes, because one, our environment is somewhat the same. This is why you want uniformity in your deployment in your computers. Um, sorry, I swore I took a shower this morning, but I'm itching like crazy. Anyways, uh, this is why you want uniformity in your setup or in your organization as best as possible. Even if it's something that has everything on Windows 10 and then everything on Windows 10 this patch. The reason why you want to do things like that is now we can actually distribute this code, the problems on multiple computers. If we run this on X amount of computers, then it will go ahead, or even a subset of group of computers, it will go ahead and fix the people that are having a problem actively, and then also proactively fix the people that don't even know that this problem exists. So what was nice is my colleague, he worked on that while I worked on the script. We came together, did what we had to do, and he was able to distribute this to about over 300 computers at the time. And anybody that was in our log me, and then we were able to make all those changes, not on the fly, but we were able to make those changes quickly and fix that problem. So some people were having problems and everything like that for quite a bit of time. But we went ahead and did things manually, other guys, and then we set off on our own little journey to try and make this whole thing. And then after that, deployed it to all of these computers. Once it was deployed to all these computers, the guys that were working the front lines, they could sit back and rest, chill out, work on other issues, clean up tickets and things like that. And then now we handled the immediate problem. And then we went ahead and also handled the overarching future problem that we had to deal with, or the big part of the problem, the major issue, by scripting this and putting it out there. All right. Oh, that was a lot. Oh my God. I should bring water here. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that whole little bit there and what we had to do, and hopefully gives you guys an idea of what you can actually do in your own organization. So Richard Dixon says, "What languages are y'all using on your job?" Listen, bro, don't get in my business. I'm just playing. So me at doing web development, and one of the apps that I write, a web app, I use Node.js for the back end, and on the front end I use vanilla JavaScript to manipulate the DOM. If you know anything about actual, that's weird. Sorry. If you know anything about web development, you have your DOM, or I think it's like document orient module or something like that. But essentially your website itself is the DOM. And then from there, you can manipulate the DOM, making changes to little things. So I use, with me manipulating the DOM, I do all those things there. I do that. I use that language. And then I use any other language as needed, depending on the platform. Oh, hold on. My coworker wants to watch me. All right, cool. Yeah, and actually the coworker that wants to watch me is the one that was working with me on the project that I had. So what we're going to do here is we have an issue with this script. It's not running properly. Let's get to the meat of this, right? So I use to finish answering your question, Richard Dixon. I use whatever is necessary, but for the most part, for the projects that I deal with on a regular basis, writing code to manipulate and communicate with different REST APIs, I use Node.js on the back end, and then vanilla JavaScript on the front end. And then in terms of anything that I have to do for scripting, we have a it's a Windows shop mainly, and we do use Linux for some backend stuff where needed in the cloud, or for backend services. And so we'll use whatever we need to get the job done for the most part. But web development, Node.js from vanilla JavaScript, scripting, BAT, CMD, command line stuff, and PS1 or PowerShell files. And I'm the one that does the code. So, I have other people that are into it as well, and I help them, and they also help me write some of these scripts as well in terms of doing the research and ultimately getting what we need done. So for the first thing, we have a folder, and I'll get to my test area here. So in this case, come on. Yeah. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. Damn it. Oh, that's why I'm pressing the damn wrong button. Anyways, so in this case, I wanted to test Robocopy. So one of the things I want to do with Robocopy, I want to take that apps folder and I want to move, in this case, this is what it originally does. It takes that whole apps folder out of the local directory. This is running from the scope of this file and referencing that directory. So I don't have to change directories or go to other directories or put in ... or anything else like that to change to different directories. What I do here is just to test this line, just to make sure it works. I won't move it to the C drive or anything like that. So I'll just move it to apps 2. When I move it to apps 2, and I have to change this line. Boom, 2. All right, so I'll have the original command, and then I'll have my test command. Essentially, we're going to test the little units of code here, or we're going to test everything line by line. This is only 39 lines, well, 37 lines if I take out the 2 lines that I'm not that are test lines. But this is only 37 lines of code. I have JavaScript files that are like 1,000 lines, man, and I've had to refactor that code and cut it down because I know I learned new ways, or maybe I use a loop to do a for loop or a for loop or something like that, or a for each loop to cut things back a little bit and do things in a more efficient, cleaner manner. But this is nothing. And even that 1,000 files, nothing, because I've heard people talk about a million lines of code like it was just a walk in the park. So this is nothing. All right, this is very small. This is nothing serious. All right, so Robocopy, I'm gonna have it first. Copy the apps folder to apps 2. I'm gonna have it do it in a move fashion, so the original will be taken away, and then it'll be moved to this folder name. And then I'm gonna use the attrib command with attrib plus H. So if I do the attrib command down here, and then with the attrib command, I can actually do things like change the attributes of a folder or a file, and I can, make changes to it. So in this case, the plus sets an attribute, and then this is the attribute. These are the triggers for those attributes. Richard Dixon, I know you said you couldn't remember the triggers. Figure it out, big guy. You remember what I was talking about before? Like, just you got to learn it. You got to do it. So this is a part of that. Is like, okay, you're gonna have to learn these triggers. You're gonna have to get used to them, or just even just do a nice, real quick read through all these different triggers here, so just in case, like, I think I saw something that'll do that for me. So it's good to do that. Not picking on you, bro. Just letting you know, hey, listen, you're gonna have to look at it. All right, so H, hidden file attribute. So I want to actually hide this folder so no one sees it. So we're gonna go ahead, let's see, and then we can undo anything if we need to. What's nice about this ISE, it's like an interactive environment. I don't know what the S means, but I know the if it was an IDE, it's along the same lines. So I can actually do Shift Alt and then the down arrow and actually select multiple lines, which is really nice. The same thing you can do in Notepad++. And the reason why I knew about that is because I knew about Notepad++. I was futzing around with the program and I had a couple lines that I had to edit, and then I found that out. And then I was like, okay, I wonder if it does the same thing in this ISE. And it does. It's freaking awesome. So I can change multiple lines at one time. My name is Mike. Hello. Obfuscate. I call you guys like obfuscators. Skators. Obfuscators. That's pretty cool. And then I can go and do Shift Alt, and then sometimes you can use the home key. In this case, I cannot. I can use the home key in Notepad++ though. And I can do all this in Notepad++ and then have a PowerShell window, but this is nice because it's all integrated. And I can delete all that, and then I can add the shebang. So Shift and then boom, and then comment out all those lines. That's really cool. Get used to those tools that can do those things that make things a little bit easier for you. Alrighty, so I'm gonna name you guys Obfuscators. It's funny. Sorry. All right, so here we have the attrib command. Let's go ahead and run it. Enough talking and explaining about it. So here we'll run it. Go ahead and keep your eyes over here and run. Cannot be loaded because running scripts is disabled. All right, so that doesn't work because I disabled scripts and I forgot about that. You have is this BYOD script, and this is actually done in this is a bat script. To get around that, as I was talking about earlier, you do PowerShell space dash no profile space dash execution policy space unrestricted space dash command and then space, and then in this case I put dot for the period for the current directory backslash because in Windows you use backslashes instead of forward slashes when traversing the file system. Right, and then the script name. So that's saying, hey, in this current directory, run this file. So in this case, what we have to do is instead of running everything via the ISE here, which kind of just refutes it doesn't make sense for me to do this stuff in here, but I'm going to keep doing it. To run this, I'll close this out, and then I'll double click, and I can actually do run as administrator as well, but I'm going to double click and just run it as a local user. So as we see, and I didn't prep you guys, so I'm sorry. But as we see that it actually got rid of that apps folder. Now, if I wanted to go here, and then I can go to that apps 2 folder. Windows is not is case insensitive, so it doesn't care about me capitalizing that apps folder or not. And then now I can see that that apps folder is still there. If I wanted to, we'll do this for our sake here. View. Actually, I do need to hide extensions for known file types. As a person that is a power user, administrator, you want to disable that so that you can actually edit like .txt files and change it to something else. And then show hidden files and folders. I'm just going to show you guys a magic trick. I'm going to hit apply. Watch. Oh, the folder's there. That's crazy. All right, cool. So I'm gonna choose okay there. So now I can see apps 2 there, and then I can actually make it change it back to what it was before. All right, so simple stuff, right? Like that's nothing serious, Mike. No big deal. What's so special about that? Get a life, kid. You know, stuff like that. So now we're gonna get to the more complicated stuff. And the reason I have to do this is because I have to test every single line and see where the failures are happening. I already kind of know where one of the failures are happening. I already know where one of the failures are happening. I guess I made a good joke, right? Yeah. Thank you. Izaz1022, man, I appreciate you joining the stream and laughing at my joke. Got a little bit. I got some pretty decent comedy here. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I tried, man. I tried. I'll be on the road soon after COVID. maybe not. All right. So what I do here is I have to test every single line and see where the problems are. I don't think there's a problem with this line here, and I also don't want to make any changes to my GPO settings. But one thing I'm gonna have to do is I'm probably gonna have to download this thing because there's certain things that need to be ran. All right, so this will limit us in terms of what we can do. So what we'll do is figure out how to make links because that download is going to take a little while. In fact, let me get that started. Hopefully this does not mess up the stream. Whoa, this is a sick picture. Look at that. That's freaking awesome. Water facility sketch. God damn, it's a lot of water. There ain't nothing around. All right, cool. That's really nice, guys. Always take time to enjoy art, enjoy the beauty around you. Even if you live in the city, enjoy the fact that you actually have city lights. I do miss that sometimes about where I used to live in South Florida, is that you can see those city lights, especially if you're on like a nice overpass or something like that. Even the Hard Rock Casino, and they have the whole guitar with all the lights. Enjoy your surroundings for what they are, and enjoy the beauty of it. Also, take time to enjoy art in some way, shape, or form, and that helps you mentally. And that's just something I always talk about in some of my other videos. All right, so let me go ahead. Could have done this while all that stuff was going, while I was talking all that trash there, right? All right, so go ahead and download this and put the password in. All right, hopefully this won't slow the stream down. I'm going to move my hand. Yeah. Okay. Everything looks good. All right, cool. So that's gonna take, oh man, it's gonna take a while. Man, it's been running slow lately. Anyways, so while that's done, we're gonna figure out how to make links in PowerShell. One thing we want to do is how to. Wow, that's pretty cool, Richard. I says I like going to art museums in my VR headset. That's pretty sick, especially with Corona going on. That's really cool. Says something about our environment and our society a little bit, but that's kind of, yeah, that's wow, that's really cool. How to make links PowerShell. Also, the art of searching and how do you search, the best ways to search. So in this case, um, knowing how to search is pretty important. So how to make links in PowerShell. All right, so okay, I already know this one. I've done this before. I use DuckDuckGo. You can use whatever search engine you feel comfortable with. All right, creating hard and soft links using PowerShell. One thing I also do is like when I'm writing writing certain scripts or code. Again, we'll get back to that other thing I was doing. Oh, okay. Check out Museum of Other Realities. I'll have to check that out. I guess that's a website or uh, a video, stream or something like that. Let us know. That'd be kind of cool. I want to check that out. Um, with this, we create a new item, and then we have a path item. So this is the link directory, and then the item type, some symbolic link, and also this new item, CM or PowerShell CMDlet, if you will, or this PowerShell command. This is how you create files. This is how you create new files, and this is how you create new folders as well. So learn this and get a little bit more accustomed to it. Yeah, Maddox. Anybody else remember when Google had belts? I had a yellow belt in Google. Huh. Oh, in terms of searching, yeah. Listen, man. One of my good friends. He calls me Google, and he's like, "Yo, listen, man." He'll call me up and be like, "Yo, bro, I got to query your knowledge base," and you just have me cracking up because stuff out of my head because I have to remember it or I've seen it. But Google, I think, learning how to search on Google is like its own like little thing. So I kind of already know how to do this a little bit. So in fact, let me just do this on another window. I have a bit of a code base that already has something like this. So let me look at the scripts here. I don't think copy item. No. Oh yeah, no, we don't have it in there. All right. Yeah, so I also have like a backup script that I've done work on, and that is all PowerShell PS1 base. So I'm kind of upgrading this one to the same thing. Richard Dixon, yeah, they have a website to give you an idea what you'll be seeing, but you need a headset to experience it. Okay, yeah, that's kind of cool. I want to see how that looks, and I think you're gonna have more of that. That is not headset related. That's all done in the browser, because within the browser itself, the in-browser applications are becoming more and more powerful. All right, so let's keep looking here. Yeah, boop. All right, cool. So it's going to say new item, path, and then link directory. We're in BYOD test. So let's go ahead and copy this into the IDE here, or the ISE here. So in this directory, I already have, oh, okay, BYOD is done. So that's cool. So that package, I can go ahead and I'll probably test that after the stream here, because it just gets into like the, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to test this. So it's just easier to do off camera a little bit. And there's just some stuff that you also got to keep private, man. That's just how it is. So the link directory, the real directory. Okay, so this is going to be the actual link. So apps folder link, and then I'm going to make a symbolic link, and then the value, this is the original folder that I'm actually linking. All right, okay, cool. So path, apps folder link, that's the actual path, or where I want it to actually go to, or the name of it in this case. Actually, I noticed it doesn't have the .lnk, which is something that you have to do in CMD. You see how you have that LNK file? So let's see if it actually creates it properly by its item type here. So that's just like, oh, okay, that's a little bit different. And noticing and understanding those differences, as I talked about in the last stream, logic and syntax, that's kind of the biggest thing. Once you know the logic, then all you have to do to become a polyglot, a person that knows many languages, is to know the syntax. All right, so let's go ahead and press enter. Uh-oh, don't be soft. There you go. Yeah. All right, administrator, you know what? Screw this. All right, give me a sec. PowerShell. Oh, also, if you open up the run prompt, if you go ahead and open up the run prompt using the Windows key R, I'm big on keyboard shortcuts, so I'll try and say them as I'm doing them. But if you use the Windows key R and then put in whatever command that you're trying to run, and if you want that command to run as administrator, a lot of people, plebs, peasants, newbies, rookies, I hope my coworkers are watching. So, one thing you can do is open up your command line. Open up your menu here, and you type in PowerShell, and then you right click, and then you run as administrator. Fuck that shit. Get that out of here. We don't do that. So we go to the run prompt, and then in there you can put in the program. If you've done it before, it'll autofill. But then we do Control Shift Enter. It will prompt us. It will prompt us to run this as an administrator. Blacking out the screen as you saw. Yeah, okay, I can see it on stream. That's kind of cool. It does that, but it blacks out the screen, and then it asks us if we want to run this as administrator or not. I do that because I've become somewhat proficient at using keyboard shortcuts. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and change that directory to C, users. Users, and I'm sure there's actually an easier way of doing this, but I'm just going to download BYOD test. And then I'm actually going to run this command here. Probably clean up this window here in a little bit. All right. Cool. And it looks like it created the link for us. There you go. All right. So it doesn't require, so this is just an interesting thing. Like we break this down. It's a very simple thing, but we're going to break it down nonetheless. Eat up time. All right. But we'll break it down nonetheless. You'll have new item, path, and it says apps folder link. And then you have item type, symbolic link. But what's nice about this is we don't have to define like we did previously. We don't have to define the .lnk. Right? So it's a very simple thing. All we have to do is actually give the destination and what we want the name to be. Also, what you'll notice is I have spaces in that actual in that name itself. So what I have to do to ensure that it writes that, or it writes that link with the spaces in there, and not having it as one contiguous word or one contiguous string with no spaces or breaks, like not putting dashes or underscores in there or anything like that. For me to actually have spaces, I have to encapsulate it in quotes, sometimes single quotes, and most of the times double quotes. Double quotes will allow you to actually probably put a variable in there, and in JavaScript, this is known as string alliteration, I believe, or yeah, string alliteration or something like that. No, something literal. Damn it, a string literal, something like that. But essentially, I can use the tick marks and then encapsulate my variable, and then have like function, right? And then I can actually, yeah, things like string literals or something like that. But essentially, I can actually do variable substitution or even function substitution. So that function would probably output some string or some information, and I can actually have that a part of a larger string. So it's like the output is, and I could have something like that if I'm doing like string literals in JavaScript. The same thing goes for Windows and double quotes. If it's single quoted, it actually it would just output, the output is, and then this $ function, all the curly braces and everything. As you can see that, that caret C, that's the equivalent of pressing Control C in the command line. All right, so as we go through this, like new item, I'm creating a link. It creates that symbolic link, and now we're here, apps folder link. So if I double click on that, it actually, oh, and that's actually wrong. We don't want it to do that. Huh. All right, so what I notice is when I double click on this, it actually creates, let's go ahead and put something in here. If I go to apps folder, so it's kind of crazy how it does this, but you see how it has the apps folder link. I would assume, oh, so this must be, yeah, this is a symbolic link. So there's a difference between hard links and symbolic links. Symbolic links are aliases that point to something on your file system. And then hard links are something that point to files on your file system in the same, or to the same, on the surface, it looks the same, but it will actually say, okay, this is not an alias to this folder. This is that folder, and this is its name. So you can actually create a hard link to a, say, an actual drive. So in Linux, this would be the equivalent of mounting something, mounting a whole nother drive. So whether it's NFS, Samba, or SMB, or another type of share, cloud storage, even like AWS, and mounting it as if it's actually on the operating system. And then you can just go /this, 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 and then you can actually have those links. So you would have a hard link and you would save everything in there, and it would write to that file system. To you, the user, it just looks like another folder or directory, but to the file system, it knows that it says, oh, okay, this is mounted somewhere else, and I'm going to have to use whatever driver necessary to write to that storage platform. So if you do a symbolic link, though, what it does, it just drops you into that directory. That's the way I understand it. Do your research, look it up. That's the best way I can understand it. I don't want to go into trying to break that down because you've spent so much time on other stuff. But you can see that I created a new folder and be like, I could put something here, and it's apps folder link. And then if I go to the apps folder, it's the same thing. This may not be an issue, but again, this is a part of testing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line and I'm going to put it a part of our script here. So, all right. And then what I have to do is I have to make 4 different links. So what I'll do is I'll kind of templatize this a little bit and make this line a bit of a template for all the other ones. Excel.exe. And then, oh, okay, the path has to be this here. And now I won't be running this. I mean, if anything, I'll probably have to install VirtualBox on this system, spin up a VM, and then I'll do all my testing in there in that environment. VirtualBox is a nice tool and a cheap way to get into virtualization. As you can see, everything turned pink, and that's because I didn't escape a quote. So don't get scared about that or anything like that. If you guys ever run into that, just understand what it actually means. And it's a nice way of saying, hey, listen, something screwed up. Check that out. All right, so I've kind of made this into a bit of a template for myself here. All right. And I need 4 of these. All right, cool. So now that I have those 4, now I can just copy and paste the Excel link information here. Word. Oh, actually, I don't need the LNK. It's easier to type this. Word. Outlook. PowerPoint. No Hyper-V. Yeah, so Hyper-V is a little bit more Aquatech asked that. Boom, click that. So Aquatech asked about Hyper-V. I use Proxmox. I went over that a little bit in another stream. Hypervisor, I won't say hypervisor is a hypervisor, but Hyper-V is going to be on your Windows Server machine. If you want to do like personal virtualization or maybe even a personal dev environment, you're not going to really have Hyper-V usually that comes on your computer. Now, I'm not sure if you can download it. I'm sure it's another. I know it's a role, of course, that you can easily install in a Windows Server, but I've never been one to like see if they have a Hyper-V client or anything like that. That's kind of I'd never thought about that, but let me know in the comment section or in the chat here or in the comment section if you see anything like that, guys. I do read the comments. So with Hyper-V, that's usually more for infrastructure or if you have Windows Server, and that is going to be a little bit way more robust than VirtualBox. VirtualBox is something nice you can actually have on a system, and then you can clone those VMs as needed, and then you can test on different environments and stuff like that. It's more of a personal hypervisor or a low-level hypervisor. So VirtualBox is something that I would definitely use just for like quick testing on a like regular basis, or on a like even a Microsoft Surface, you can do something like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I use Proxmox as well. But yeah, I love Proxmox. I've been using that thing for years, man. I've had it in clusters. I've had that thing on Dell PowerEdge 2950s and running those 2 things in clusters and with SCSI. No, they were SATA drives. They were SATA drives. But those things are freaking amazing. Oh, wow. Okay. Windows 10 Pro has Hyper-V built in. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, cool. Yeah, so I probably still would use VirtualBox because that's what because you said that, I think I'm going to actually research that after I get off of here. Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. But yeah, Proxmox I love, and you can do so much with it. And I was actually showing it off in the last stream, so check that out. So Architect says it has Hyper-V built in. Maddox says, unless you use Docker, then we have to use Hyper-V. All right, cool. Like Docker, I'm not. There's Docker, then there's Docker swarms and all this other stuff. And Docker's cool for some stuff, like executing bits of code, I think. But I've never been in a situation where I quote unquote needed it or thought I needed it. But it is something that is, I think, pretty cool and can get pretty complex and scale fairly well. All right, Akoteki, though I'm partial to VirtualBox, Keep it techie. VirtualBox is how I record my videos. It's great as well. Oh, okay, that's cool. I guess that I get. Oh, I know you're a Linux guy, so you probably use like maybe like Camtasia on Windows or something like that in a VirtualBox. Okay, that's cool. All right, and like one thing that's nice about VirtualBox is it's gotten better over time and started using more of the virtualization features that are actually on the processor. Um, oh, Jesus Christ. All right. So VirtualBox, you can do quite a bit in it, and you can even actually feed it USB drives, feed it serial connections, and other things like that, and even share files between it, like it's a Samba share or something like that. So VirtualBox is really nice for that, and it's gotten better over the years, and it hasn't gotten bastardized that I've seen since Oracle bought it. But I'm gonna actually check out Hyper-V on Windows. So yeah, keep it techie. Guys, definitely go ahead, and I never said this, but definitely go ahead and subscribe to Keep It Techie. Aqua Techie, I've seen you in a couple different spaces, brother, so I'm not sure if you make any content or anything like that, but Keep It Techie, definitely. I know he makes a lot of different videos in terms of how to use Linux and other things. Actually, let me see here. I want to say Aqua Techie does have channel with content, but I want to plug those that are around, man, so we can actually do these things on a regular basis, or we can do more of us can actually, if one person's not streaming or creating content. Oh, okay, no, I don't see that. I don't see your channel showing up on anything Aquatechy, so I'm not shouting it out or anything like that. I apologize. I don't want to like people go to your channel and I guess you don't have any content for them or anything like that. But if you do, man, plug your channel, Aquatechy. But Keep It Techie definitely has a lot of content on his channel. And actually, let's go ahead and show it. Keep It Techie. He's a brother that does interviews. What's nice about Keep It Techie, he'll actually go through and he'll go through all these different technologies and stuff like that, which is great because now you're having somebody that's actually showing you this stuff and giving you videos and examples and things to actually look at and say, okay, hey, this is good, this is not, so on and so forth. All right, and then let me go through these. I like VMware Workstation Pro more. Yeah, and the thing is, it's a barrier of entry. So what happened is when I was running with VMware, or worked with VMware a little bit, VMware didn't have the best licensing for stuff. So I had to. Sorry, I just was sitting on something and I wanted to get that out. Sorry about that. But VMware didn't have the best licensing, and VirtualBox allowed me to do like multiple virtual machines and things like that. And you can also do headless VirtualBox too, but it requires a little bit more. Yeah, but Proxmox is awesome. I dockered Pi-hole, bro. Like I vaguely remember the Pi-hole project. I don't remember exactly what it does, and hopefully I'll do some more streams where I'm actually working on some of my Raspberry Pi projects. But Pi-hole, I forgot. Damn it, what the hell is Pi-hole again? Talk about it in the go ahead and make a comment there or a chat. Hyper-V is on Windows features you turn Hyper-V is on Windows features you turn on. Oh, okay. Another feature that you want to actually turn on. Thanks for the comment, ISAS. But another feature that you actually want to turn on is things like Telnet. So I don't know if that's like a bit of a something that a vulnerability or anything like that. But Telnet is definitely something that you want to turn on, especially if you're an admin of any sort, because Telnet is just definitely something you're going to use to check if ports are open or anything else like that, or else you're going to have to go to a Linux box and use Nmap or something. I play around with LXC as well. Actually, I played around with LXC as well. It's actually LXC. If you're talking about I'm thinking you're talking about the Thin Client project. I used to use that in terms of having thin clients using Linux. That was a nice thing. I need to make some content. Yeah, go ahead, brother. Make some content, man. Keep it techie. I have to get you on for an interview, Grizzly, soon. Yeah, well, if I have to do an interview, I might have to like get a haircut or something like that. Yeah, definitely Aquatechy. Telnet still has its uses, for sure. And I definitely use Telnet, and I always show my colleagues that stuff and everything like that. So I always get on them about those things, and like they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and I'll be like, "Yeah," and it's like go over it and stuff like that, and they'll teach me stuff too. So I can't act like I'm freaking the wise old man here. All right, cool. So let's get back to this, and we pretty much made all this stuff into a template, and now we're just gonna do these things here. These things we will copy. And I don't know if you guys see this. Hopefully I don't have anything crazy. I don't? Okay, cool. So I don't know if you guys see this, but Windows actually has a clipboard feature. Oh man, it's not showing up on my other screen. But if you actually press the, Control C for copy, Control V, Maddox, Snob Life. I use SSH. That's what I'm talking about. I love SSH, man. That's just, I mean, just as a protocol, it's just one of those things, man. You just get used to, and you can use all those, you just get used to it, and it's just like, you feel cool when you know that type of stuff, and people be like, oh, what is this? What is SSH? How do you get into these systems? Linux, what is that? Command line? Ooh, too much work. And it's just like, no, bro, you can do a lot. Command line is super powerful. All right, so in this case, again, I'm not going to be running this code right now. I'm going to be running this mostly on a VirtualBox or something like that, or another hard computer or something like that, because I don't want to mess up my system and do anything to my system. Not that these things really mess up my system, but they're just not the things that I want to do with my system. That's kind of the importance of having a sandbox or work environment or anything like that. All right, cool. So we'll go ahead. We'll get rid of these because we'll say, hey, listen, this works. It's not, oh man, I gotta go through, go all the way to the end of the line by using the arrow key. All right, boom, those lines deleted. All right, so that change name VBS, I know that's good. We're gonna use a multi-line edit, which again is, what's it called? Alt-Shift, and then the arrow keys. Yeah. Oh, okay. You learn SSH from Keep It Techie, man. Yeah, Keep It Techie is definitely a great person in the space, man, and he's done great things. And he's even promoted my content, man. And he has inspired me to make content about just running business. And I made that stream a while back, or made that video a while back. Just my failures, hopefully successes. All right, so here, this stuff is good. This stuff is okay. The only problem I have. Right, is I can't run these things. This is the problem I ran into earlier. So anything with double quotes around it doesn't run properly in a PowerShell script. What you actually have to do is put an ampersand in front of it. So that's one of the major things that needs to be fixed. Also, if I just go ahead and put that fix for all these different lines here, such as the Ninite installer, it will not run them procedurally. The difference between procedural or asynchronous command, procedural asynchronous programming is procedural runs one line after the other, which is what you want to do in a script for the most part. You don't want things to run asynchronously unless you just really want that and you're going to different APIs and stuff like that. But in a simple PowerShell command line script, you want them to run one after the other. So what that means is, or for why that's important is, with Windows, you can only install one program at a time. So it's like you can't really run both of these. Coincidence, I had to generate some SSH keys for a BA project I'm working on today. Yeah, SSH keys, man, you're going to have to do that, especially when you're dealing with VPNs and things like that, and then having PSKs or a PKI, which is like a pre-shared or a private key infrastructure. So you have to generate all these different keys and distribute them, and then make sure you revoke them if ever needed. I don't get into that stuff. I used to do that with VPNs. I don't do them as much anymore. So with this, if I wanted to run these two commands, they will not run quote unquote procedurally or one after the other, or one after one is done, run the next one. The way things work in CMD is that in CMD, it will execute and then go to the next line. It does that automatically. It doesn't run anything concurrent or anything else like that. Now, what this means is PowerShell allows for probably asynchronous execution of code. Then you have to actually write your code to where it waits for the previous line to run and go from there. In Linux, this would be if you're running, or not Linux, sorry. If you're running JavaScript or Node.js or something like that, which is JavaScript based or JavaScript based language. If I wanted to write a function, right? So that function there, I'm defining a function. Let's make it a named function. Function with a name. All right. So, and then it takes a parameter. So if I wanted to run this parameter, I think I got that right. Now you guys know that I can't spell. Damn it. End the stream. But with a function, this function will just run, right? If I call it, like function. Right. Cool. So this is if I'm running, like if I'm doing JavaScript, right? This is not PowerShell, but some of it holds true. But define the function and I call it. Now, if I wanted to do an asynchronous function and a non-procedural function, or a function that doesn't run, that runs concurrent with other functions running in the background, I would have to do something like add the keyword async to run it, because then it'll run asynchronously. And then I can do things like dot then, and then this, and then dot catch, and then this. And that's how you run an asynchronous function in JavaScript or Node.js. Now, what you do within that function, since it's an asynchronous function, you can actually do things like await. So you stop something from executing, you turn an asynchronous function into a procedural function, or a function that requires the one command or the previous command to finish before it moves on to the next one. I could be using the words wrong, but when you're looking at procedural programming, it's one after the other. Asynchronous programming, it happens whenever it needs to, just like your download speeds are asynchronous. Your uploads don't match your downloads. They're not synchronous. They do not rely on one another. If it did, then things would be even slower if you're looking at bidirectional communication or anything like that. So keep that in mind. That's kind of the difference between half duplex and full duplex. A half duplex, one thing runs at a time. Full duplex, you can have bidirectional communication, where that bidirectional communication runs concurrent. There you go. So that's how you would handle it here. But how the hell do I handle it in PowerShell? I don't know. Right. So in fact, let's go ahead and, we can't run this because I don't have that command. Damn. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna just go ahead and execute. Okay. Give me a sec, guys. I'm going to go ahead and extract this exe file. Also, if you're doing something and you're like running a program that's not known by an unknown publisher, actually, let's get. I'll show you the screen before. It'll look like this, and he says don't run. But if you do more info, kind of like the same way you did with, or you would do with, if a website has a mismatch security or SSL certificate or something like that, you can just go ahead and choose more options, and it allows you to run anyway. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and run that on the next screen here. Waiting for the prompt. All right, cool. Right, cool. So that's extracting in a folder, and it is Oh, great. Is it done? Garbage. My AVG is overprotective here. All right, let that extract. And then I'll get my apps folder here. What? All right, sorry guys. Let me get rid of my AVG here for a second. Turn this sucker off. Okay, stop. All right, close. Okay. Yes to all. Oh, maybe it did it. Oh goodness, I'm having problems here, guys. Here. All right, cool. No, I did it. All right. Let me copy this apps folder to my BYOD test apps folder. Paste it. Right, great. So now I have my apps folder with all my different apps in there, and pretty much everything, all this stuff should run. So what I'm going to do is with this new script, I'm going to go ahead and going to execute this script that runs this script here that gets past our execution restriction. And then what you'll see is, hopefully it shows up on this screen here. It might not, and I'll just drag it over. But what you'll see is it'll run these things concurrently, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to run one after the other. All right. Okay. It's another thing I forgot about. So one thing I have to do is with this script, one of the things that would be nice that we fix, and we plan on making this into what they call an Electron app, so it's a little bit easier for our guys in the field or our guys that have to deal with all the users in the field to run it and download it, and probably even make the actual initial installer program, make it a little bit smaller, is that we want to make it an Electron app. But part of what we have to do, which is kind of a sad thing, and it's just the way this thing executes, is that we actually have to open up the command line and then go ahead and traverse the file system to that directory, and then find the file and run it. It's just something I've never gotten around to fixing or making better, and the guys just are used to it because it's still a lot better than running through the entire list of, in this case, 30 something steps or even 20 steps, because some of these things are pretty easy. But 20 steps, if you do it in the GUI, it just makes it easier. So it's a trade-off. So I'll go ahead and run this bat script. This bat script will run the PS1 script. Oh, there we go. Maybe. Oh, can I find the specified file? Oh, okay. So I also have to change this. All right, cool. Because I didn't move this to the C directory. All right, cool. Save that. All right, up. All right, so we get this error. So this is the error that I keep getting, is apps cannot be loaded for more information, import. And I keep getting an error like this because I can't execute these commands. And it's just like, why can't I execute these commands? All right, so let's do this. We'll split the screen here. And I'll go on for a couple more minutes, guys. It's probably one of the longer streams here, just because I like to blab, I guess. So, all right, cool. Here, boom, F, and then I'll go ahead and run that script. Is not recognized as a name of a CMDlet or function. Okay. Now, what if I do this? This is a part of testing where I'll focus on what I'm doing here. And you kind of just have to go through these things and say, okay, what if I do this? What if I do this? What if I do this? And just keep on doing that over and over again until it actually works for you. So save. This is part of testing scripts and testing programming. This is why a lot of times in terms of like larger deployments, larger software developers, they'll actually have test suites that'll go ahead and test all this for you, just to make sure that you don't miss any tests and that any and all problems that are found or any and all problems that exist are found and fixed. All right, so this doesn't do anything per se. It doesn't have any errors either. But it's actually not running this file here. Now, one thing you can do here is the biggest problem that I have, or the biggest problem that occurs, is due to the simple fact that some of these commands have spaces. So some of these directories have spaces. I could probably go through and, like this Adobe Reader, Adobe Reader DC, that's human readable, but to a computer, that space is a problem because at that space, it might show as a break. This is one whole command. It'll look at this as a command, and it'll look at all of this at, oh crap. There you go. It'll look at all of this as one command, right? Oh, why does it keep moving? All right, looks as this all is one command. So to wait for it to actually look at it as and interpret it as one single command or even a path that leads to a command or executable, then it actually has to go through and it'll read that, it'll read that line, it'll go through and execute it properly, or execute it as expected, as like, you just double clicking and going to it. If it has no spaces, then we don't really see these problems anymore. But we have these problems when spaces exist. And that's the thing that I'm running into here. All right, so in fact, let's go ahead and get this out of here. We'll go ahead and save. As you know, we have the period \, and that is just saying current directory. All right, so we'll go ahead and run our script. So this still has an issue here. It's not recognized. So let's see. And guys, as you can see, I don't know always what I'm doing. I've learned this over time. Actually, see, this is a problem. This will become a problem here, right here. So we're going to go ahead and comment this out for now. All right, and save that. And let's just see if we can get one to run. Module apps cannot be loaded. All right, so it's thinking that this is a whole module, so, or it's an actual like command that leads to another command, and that's just how it's reading it. And this is where I would probably do something like a search that says, okay, how do I execute PowerShell commands? All right. Oh, that's recognized. Okay. So now, this is where we start to search. How to. All right. So PowerShell. How to execute commands with spaces. All right, so what I searched here is PowerShell, the thing that we're working in. And I'm kind of teaching you how to search here. This is how it works for me, at least. But PowerShell, how to execute commands with spaces. So in this case, we got a Stack Overflow article here, aka the Programmer's Bible. Learn it, use it, get an account if you want to, but it's public. So, but PowerShell's or not PowerShell, but Stack Overflow is great, and this is probably where you'll find most of your answers. Okay, so file, so PowerShell.exe, file. So if you want to run PowerShell.exe from the command line, you always have to set paths with spaces with double quotes. All right, single quotes are only recognized by PowerShell. But as PowerShell.exe is invoked, hence the file parameter process by command line, you have to use single quotes. Okay. And it's like I can just copy and paste this and do it over and over and over again. Encoded command. So that's kind of different here. Oh, okay. That's cool. So you remember how I was doing the ampersand in front of the line here to actually have it run. This is something I saw before, where some of your programs you have to execute it in this fashion. But if you want to do an encoded command, you would encase that. Like, so this command, you assign this whole command here as a variable. So maybe that's another script that's running. And then from there, all right, cool, nothing in there new in the chat. And then from there, as a variable, then you can assign that variable to another function here, which is kind of nice. Okay, that's good to know. Again, you learn these things as you go along. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. Let me use that. But this is something that could possibly come in handy later on, is using these commands or the output of this script here and putting it or assigning it to a variable, aka an object. Okay, so all right, so what we want to do here, and I don't like this because it's like, okay, I have to invoke PowerShell.exe again. It's like, why do I have to do that? So we'll see. It's like, why would I invoke PowerShell in PowerShell? Is there another way of doing this? So we'll go ahead and duplicate this tab here. And all right, so this one here, power tip, run a PowerShell script with space in the path. Okay, cool answer. Array. Oh, okay. So what we can do is do an ampersand and encapsulate it with what's it called? Quotation marks, or not parentheses, and then we have our double quotes inside of that. Now, this actually reminds me of Linux command line, where if you had to write that in the Linux command line, it would look something. Uh, you would use the $, parentheses, and then the maybe even the command or variable or something like that, variable, or just a function, variable. And I was doing this just the other day, and this is the project I was working on in the first video. I want to do an update on that. I'll probably do that in the next stream where I go over that a little bit, and I might be working on it after this. Okay, so then if I wanted to, then it's like a function, and then run a function like that. Actually, no, bash, you did it like that because there's no parentheses for the parameter. So yeah, you can do stuff like this. It's pretty cool. This is pretty cool. All right, cool. So that's just seeing how, okay, hey, listen, guys, this is logic. Again, logic is the biggest thing. And then after that, it's all about, what do they call it again? Logic. And then all of that, after that, it's just syntax. So it's cool. I like this better, but we'll see how this actually runs, though, because this may not actually run the way I expect it to. Yeah, you see this ampersand and then the quotes. See, there's different ways you can do this. Whose path has spaces in the PowerShell. Okay. Function call operator. Oh, so it's ampersand. Oh, so that's the function call operator is what that's called. All right, cool. Let's run that. Let's run it. Let's close this out. Let's close our registry out. Let's do PowerShell. Okay, so the apps folder, I'm going to have to do. All right, cool. So that's how it should look is what they're saying, right? So, all right, let's go ahead and run that. No. Apps cannot be loaded. So it thinks that apps is an actual application. So let's see if we can do that to escape that actual, because I don't want it to be something where it's like, the problem is you want this to scale and work on any system. So I don't want to define it as C:/users, blah, 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 blah. Like it doesn't really make any sense for it to do that because you'd have to do things to get the current path, which I can do. And I've written scripts that do that get the actual home path of a user. In fact, let's actually bring up a script about that. Which is really cool when you're writing some scripts here. I'm going to do this quickly as an aside here. All right, find this script and So if you wanted to actually find the actual user's desktop folder, right? But the desktop folder is somebody else's name, or the user folder is someone else's name. Like I'm user Young Grizzly, Keep It Techie is user Keep It Techie. But it's like I want to find Keep It Techie's desktop folder and Young Grizzly's desktop folder and have it assigned to the same variable. One thing you can do, there's the environment kind of cmdlet, or I don't know what you call this thing here, but you could basically use this here. So you have environment, which will go to the environment variables, and get folder path. So what's nice about this, you can do get folder path, and then I can do something like, I'm a mess up here. But so what's nice about this is I did desktops. Excuse me. Cannot convert argument folder with value desktops for get folder path to type system environment, whatever, right? So here are the list of folders that you actually can get. This is something that was really interesting. So I can get the person's desktop folder, programs folder, my documents folder. The problem that we ran into, the scenario that we ran into, is that we have to back up all these different user files. I had to make a backup script. Me and my manager talked about it, and we went over it, and we were like, man, some people are using folder redirection. Some people are just using, on their C drive, they have the it's locally stored, right? So it's like, how can I have that and assign it to a variable every single time and then copy the information that I need? Well, you can do it like this. So if I wanted to actually get that person's directory for their desktop programs, what have you, I'll spell it right this time, right? Because it gives you the list of items that you can actually look for. So the programs folder, you can even get the programs, common programs files, x86. So that's program files, parentheses, I think it's like x86, and then program files, which is the 64-bit binaries. So boom, enter. And now I can see users desktop. So I can actually assign this to a variable if I wanted to, and just tell everybody, hey, listen, always put in the downloads folder. Or I can even get the current working the current working directory. I can assign that to a variable like so. Right, so I can assign that to a variable like so, and then I think I can do echo. Yeah, so I can echo that variable later on. It's just because of the way PowerShell works. I don't understand how it does that exactly, but it's kind of like running, if you're running a Python shell or something like that, you can actually run everything in line and then go ahead and output it and call it later, as long as that variable has existed and it's in its memory. So that's something that's really nice, that's very powerful, and that's really nice when you're writing backup scripts that you want to hit multiple people. All right, we got a couple more minutes, so I'll go a little bit further with this, and hopefully I can get this working. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just run the command here. I keep on right clicking, and that's why it comes up with that menu. But in SSH, or not SSH, but if you use Putty or something like that, you can highlight something, right click, and it'll paste it for you. So highlighting it copies it, pasting by right clicking. So that's the problem I'm having there. But it's like, okay, well, how can I get this to run every single time? Okay. This is the part that sucks, guys. Duck, go. And then PowerShell run installer. Oh, wow. PowerShell run installer and wait. That's cool. The reason why you have to do the and wait part is because sometimes you actually have to run it. You have to make it run. Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay, this is cool. First article here. Start process, path to exe, and wait. This might be our solution, guys. This will be great because then end the stream on a high note. All right, cool. So what we'll do here, and the reason why, as I was explaining, is you have to wait because sometimes you have to wait for that installer because it's a prerequisite or it has prerequisites in it that that have to be completed before you can run the next thing. So start process. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and do that. So in our case, start. All right, cool. You can use tab completion too with PowerShell, which is pretty nice too. Again, guys, you see how like I can work with some of these commands, and some of these things are the same no matter what environment that you're using. They copy each other quite a bit, and I could do wait. And with the ISE, it actually does command highlighting for you and command suggestions, which is really nice. So, excuse me, that's a benefit of actually having this here. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that. Cannot be run error. The system cannot find the specified file. Huh. All right, so it can't find the specified file, possibly. Maybe it doesn't exist. All right, let's go ahead and see if that file does exist. Huh, why doesn't it say? Huh, it's not there. Uh-huh. Did I run this thing? All right, so it looks like I renamed everything to apps2 and hid the folder. I must have ran it without commenting some of this stuff out, so yeah, my bad on that, right? So I'm causing my own self all these problems because this might actually, yep, that actually works. Oh my God, I hate myself. All right, so a part of the problem that I was having, guys, laugh at my expense, laugh at my failures, learn from them, please. Part of the problem I was having is that up early on in my script, of course, I have it running where it writes. It actually changes the apps folder to a different name. I'm not sure why or when it did it, but I messed up in some case and I didn't comment that out. Ran it, it renamed the folder. So then every time that I'm trying to run it, it's like it's not recognized. And it's like, okay, why is it not recognized? Well, it's like, telling you check the spelling. So I'm thinking there's just a problem with the way that I call it. Well, this will work, but ultimately this is not the way we want to do it. But this will work, but it'll work especially if you actually have it there. So oh man, it's too funny. All right, continuing on. So the start process thing, that could work too. All right, cool. Start process works as well, and it will darken my screen, run it as administrator, and go through the installer all the same. I like the start process way of doing it because it actually has that wait flag or wait trigger. So definitely going to be using that and just copy and pasting that. So this is what we have to go through, like we have to go through and test all these little things here just to make these darn scripts work. And we're going to have to do this for everything here that says, this script, that script, so on and so forth. So we'll have it start the process and then go from there. Guys, pretty much that's it. I'm just going to be working on this. Semi just to make sure that this gets done, and then we can test it in the during the day at work with my colleagues and everything like that. But this is what I go through. Sometimes I won't talk to anybody. I'll just be going through this. I'll get up, walk around, look at different things, and enjoy my environment as I've talked about before. Look at different pieces of art. Even watch, YouTube streams of Dragon Ball Fighter Z or something like that, which is a pretty cool video game. But watch other people fight and then pause it or listen to some of the other people that are in the Black Manosphere space, and and I'll just do this. But you do have to be patient, work through these things. I do get frustrated with it, but it's at the end of it, you can just laugh and say, oh wow, this works, this is good, so on and so forth. All right, guys, that's the end of the stream. For those that are watching the playback, I really do appreciate you. There's probably a warning I'll give to people in the, earlier on in the stream. If anything, watch me on playback and watch me at 2x or 1.5x speed. It'll get you through more content. Your brain will get used to it, and you'll be able to pick up things faster for especially people talking faster. And then it'll get you through more content so you can consume more information. Slow it down when you need to. Look at the screen and things like that. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I wish you all the best in all your endeavors, and definitely come back for the next stream. I'm going to try to do keep on schedule with these streams Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. All right. Have a nice one. Peace.